I cannot define the role of the architecture in the contemporary society. Indeed, to be more precise, I refuse to define the role of the architecture in the contemporary society, if it is possible at all to define such a role. I think the question itself should be taken as an object of inquiry. It should be taken as an object in itself, and we should ask, why do we ask this question at all? What are the origins of this question? Who asks this question? And if we ask these questions, then we soon understand that this is a very modern question, which strives to categorize things, to put things in places, to put things in order, to institutionalize objects, to institutionalize practices. However, I would say that one important concept in architecture today is that of ecology. And by ecology, I don't mean just a basic question of the environment, the carbon dioxide, the atmosphere, but I mean the whole gamut of the architectural practice, including such a notion as an ecology of visuality. After all, visuality is a very important aspect of architectural practice. I hope we can get to this notion of ecology later on. I share my practice between United States and Albania, so I straddle both countries. I think today architecture is highly mediated by techniques and power. But after all, when has architecture not been mediated by techniques and power? It has always been mediated by techniques and power, and we can easily understand this if we look at the earliest treatises of architecture, such as that of Vitruvius, of Alberti, Palladio, etc. In fact, I think that techniques is power. It's not just techniques and power, techniques is power, and techniques is not just technology, is the way we deal with things. It's the way we write, the way we draw, the way we think. So it's not just an instrument, techniques is not just an instrument, but it's also a fusion of the instrument and spirit. And several people have written about this, such as the philosopher Bernhard Stiegler, who deals precisely with techniques and time and history, and writers such as Stéphane Mallarmé and Paul Valéry, etc. So I think, to come back to the question, this is the crucial condition of architecture today, is techniques and power. To tell you the truth, I was not in Venice this year, so I haven't seen Venice Biennale in person. I followed up the activities online. I think the title of Biennale is very provocative, and especially the reference on Paul Klee's Angelus Novus, the Angel of History, which Walter Benjamin wrote in his famous thesis on history. And as you know, the Angelus Novus is looking backwards while it's going forward. So it's a paradoxical connection of the future and the past. And I think unfortunately the title of the Biennale kind of disregards this notion of the past, at least from the title. And I think that the title resembles some kind of a military metaphor, right? The front. It's the idea of looking forward. However, the front is always supported by others, by technologies, by people, by instruments, by protocols. So it's precisely the support that makes the front exist. And investigating the supports is always critical and important for the discipline. I think there are many common denominators today, and one of them is techniques, is the way we produce architecture. I mean, there is certain kind of convergence of curriculums of different schools. If you look at the curriculum of different schools, they are almost the same. The softwares that the students use are the same. The architectural program and the division into subjects is almost the same. So there is definitely many common denominators, and I think we should strive to maintain some open trajectories where there are other vectors that do not fall into a common denominator. I think that the notion of the local and the regional is definitely a possibility of providing a difference to this larger common denominator. I mean, it's a difficult question because architecture is intimately connected with everyday problems. I mean, this is the default of architecture, right? I mean, we build buildings, at least, right, where in those buildings people live. So there is an immediate, I would say, there is an immediate connection of architecture with life. However, I think that architecture is also a discipline where certain issues are thought in relation to the structures of this discipline, and this is part of everyday life. So I don't think they are disconnected from one another. And of course, networking, there is definitely a huge influence of networking on the profession simply because of the speed of information and the amount of information that is flowing all over the world. And this very speed definitely creates a new possibility for architecture, not always positive, also negative. So technicality or techniques, there is always a positive and negative influence, and there is precisely the notion of ecology that could moderate or could equilibrate or could mediate between techniques, speed, and our discipline. I don't think we can define easily what a catalyst for future cities can be, because I don't think we can generalize what the city is and what the future city can be. Indeed, I do not like the definition of cities as organisms, because the cities very often are defined by certain conflictual processes, by political conflicts, by social conflicts. So I don't think there is a encapsulating definition of what the city is, which throws this notion of the catalyst a little bit in crisis. Coming back to Angelus Novus, which was a primary reference for this Biennale, I think Angelus Novus is the strategy through which we can look at the city. Responding also to your previous question, Angelus Novus goes forward while looking back. So there is the force of history throws Angelus Novus through a particular direction, and Angelus Novus looks back at what has happened in history. So I think that is the only strategy through which we can look at any future, not just the future of architecture.